Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you so much to the people online. I am very happy to see everybody. Thanks to the speakers and Jemana. My name is Janina Steinmetz. I am the director of the Global Women's Leadership Program at Bayes Business School. And the mission of the Global Women's Leadership Program is to support Bayes women in various ways. One way that we do this is that we award scholarships to excellent female MBA students. We actually have a scholarship deadline coming up on December 4th for the Dubai scholarship, because one scholarship per year is awarded to somebody in Dubai. So make sure to forward this to anybody who's interested. And another way that we support Bayes women is by hosting events such as this one today to create a community of women and men who support each other and help with networking and career support. And I'm particularly excited about this event today, not only because it's the first in-person event in Dubai since the start of the pandemic, but also because the topic, work-life balance, is more relevant than ever now that we're returning to a new normal. So work-life balance has been something that we've all struggled with before the pandemic, and any balance that we've had might have been upended by the pandemic. So now, as we're returning to a new normal, we have to find new ways to navigate the tension between work and life. And we have two amazing speakers today who will tell us how they strike this balance together with their teams and give us all advice on how we can manage this new normal. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm very much looking forward to the event.
Thank you, Janina, and welcome to Dubai. This is your first visit to Dubai as well, and first visit as director.
Yes.
So welcome from all of us. Good evening, everyone joining us today, and also good morning or afternoon to the people who are joining us online from all over the world. Thank you also for bearing with us with this slight delay. I think one thing that we don't miss post-COVID is the Dubai traffic. So, so this is also something that is interesting to miss, but also interesting not to have experience for a while. A very warm welcome to everyone in our first physical event in Dubai since the pandemic. My name is Jemana Abu Hanoud, and I'm a scholar and board member of the Global Women's Leadership Program and your moderator for this evening. And with us today is a panel of extraordinary women who have generously taken from their time to discuss a topic that is a dilemma for most of us, more so during and after the pandemic: work-life balance. Here to share their diverse perspectives and to discuss whether work-life balance does really exist are Dr. Caroline Faraj, CNN VP of Arabic Services and member of the Global Women Leadership Program Advisory Council, and Rana Ghandour Salhab, People and Purpose Partner and EXCO member of Deloitte Middle East. Please welcome them with a round of applause. Each one of these ladies has weathered phenomenal storms throughout their careers, and especially in the past couple of years, from political crises to changes in human behavior. I would like to give the floor to our speakers to introduce themselves, starting with Dr. Caroline, and then over to you, Rana.
Okay, good evening, and I'm really sorry I got stuck in the traffic and I had to walk, which is good. My watch is really happy. Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for joining. My name is Caroline, and I'm honored to be also one of the graduates of City University. I got my master's from here, and this year I was honored to receive the honorary PhD from Bayes. So thank you very much. I've been working for CNN for 20 plus years. I think this is the 21st. And before that, I started my career as a journalist in Jordan and in different places, including London. I moved here to start the first Gulf operation for CNN and the Arabic services as well. And surprise, surprise, they gave me 16 days to build everything. So it was done. So fits perfectly with the title that we have. I'm really happy and thrilled to discuss this topic because this is something I keep preaching on my team all the time about it. But let's discover if I am really abiding by it or not. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Rana. I'm pleased to be here. The topic and the whole area of women advancement is very close to my heart. And it's something that as I get older, as I get nearer to my retirement, in fact, is something that keeps me awake at night. I look at how much progression has happened with all of us activists. I am a bit of an activist politically in the Middle East in terms of policies, in terms of women in parliament, in terms of women in leadership at the macro level. And I'm very much in the corporate world watching what's happening and trying my best with like-minded people, including Jumana, who did not mention that she is one of the founders of the first DIFC NGO, actually, which is targeted to mentoring women in finance. So, and I'm very pleased to have been also involved in that. My career, I'm a biostatistician and epidemiologist, but I've never practiced that. You would think it would have been useful in the pandemic, but I was so out of touch because of my major that I never had the chance to do that. My role at Deloitte has evolved a number of times. I've been for 20 years with Deloitte here. Prior to that, I used to work for Anderson, and I've lived in 3 continents and multiple countries in the world. And the learnings I had on the way is that women are very similar across the world. You are now sitting in Dubai. Plenty of people are listening to us from across, I guess, many countries. And I want you to think culture plays less an impact than what you think. Always when you think of the Middle East, you think, oh, women in the Middle East. So I'm just going to give a quick story. I remember once our Deloitte colleagues, partners in the US called me and said there is a delegation from the financial sector, from banks, lawyers, and having an international women's meeting in Dubai. So Rana, we support them in New York, in the US, they're from Wall Street and so on. Could you give them could you invite them to dinner? There was maybe 20, 25 women. So I remember clearly we took them out to dinner, a few of us here. And so they sat around the table and one of them looked at me and said, women in the Middle East, how can we help you improve the situation? I said, by all means, tell us what you did in the US so we don't do the same. And you would think as a hostess, I would have been more polite, but this is exactly my feeling about the membership of boards, percentage of CEOs who are women across the world, in the US, in the UK, and elsewhere. So these challenges are not only ours. We may have other challenges they don't, but I really want to know what they did so we don't repeat it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for this wonderful introduction. And I think it also is very exciting for us to know the flavor of the rest of the conversation today. Caroline, I'd like to start with you, and I'm going to ask different questions to each of you today. Having established the Arabic face of CNN more than 2 decades ago, as you just mentioned, you've seen it all. And world news keeps you up at night more than any of us. The World Happiness Report focused on the effects of COVID-19 pandemic and how it has impacted people's lives, their well-being, and the future of work. Whilst the impact of the pandemic and lockdown initially affected job security, inequality, happiness, it is inarguable that in a sense, it also provided flexibility on the one hand, but less control over work-life balance because it was taxing in terms of longer hours, increasing the intensity of virtual work, and decreasing opportunities for networking, collaboration, and socializing. This is what the report says. How, in your view, has the pandemic affected work-life balance?
Okay, let me start by taking part of your question, which is if it affected the media scope in general and CNN in specific, and then we can talk about the balance. I think because in our life we're always working 24/7 and we are always looking for breaking news, and if you don't, the breaking news comes a package with CNN, so you cannot have CNN without breaking news. So we're always ready, and we're always on standby. And we're always ready to move around and work in any place. So bring you back now closer to the UAE and Dubai, and my team and the team that is based out of the UAE. We are always ready to focus anywhere, to work in any place, and that's where we have technology, we have everything that you can work from your home. And even in our building, for example, whoever works in Media City, and you know, most of the buildings in the UAE, we have lots of glass buildings, but then we don't have windows most of the time because of the AC part. So in our building and in our office, anybody who might have flu or cold, I always tell them, work from home, guys, be ready, because we have access. And as you know, CNN is in the whole globe. So we have offices in London, we have another headquarters in Hong Kong, Atlanta, New York, and so on, and the UAE. So work-wise, we can function anywhere. Now, whether we were able to do that or not, I'll tell you just a quick story that people thought that I read the future. Just 3 days before CNN announcing officially that we have immediately go home and not work from the office anymore, and nobody should leave any place without permission from the president himself. It was Friday night, and I don't know why, I started to think, because I started to see the numbers increasing, and reading at that time, Friday was off in the UAE. So I was thinking and reading the numbers, and I thought maybe, I need to do something. So I called two of my leadership team, and I told them, listen, guys, let's do a drill and start see if we decided to work from home, all of us, let's see if we're missing anything. So I want on Monday to go, all of us, on a drill and work from home. I'll stay with the tech guy and the admin person in the office the whole day and see if there's anything missing and anything needed to be done. So we've done that on a Monday. Came back on a Tuesday, had a staff meeting with everybody, and we evaluated what happened, what's missing. Somebody said cable, somebody said internet was not really that well. My chair was not really proper, all these minor things. And we said, okay. Tuesday, the same day after the evaluation, 7 p.m. Dubai time, I received an email with lots of flags from the headquarters in New York, well, not second headquarters in New York. And the president said it clearly and openly, everybody should go home immediately and not work from the office until further notice. So were we affected? No, because I gave everything to the team, even tables, anything you want. Now, were we prepared in our places? Maybe I was lucky, I have a space, I have extra rooms, I have computer. I don't have kids, so I don't have, I don't need to bring more computers to the house. But I've noticed as well that some people were, Zoom was not really something that we do together. We do it with other offices. So we started at that time, different tool, not Zoom. And I discovered that some of, culture is very important to consider, as you know all. I discovered that some of my team members were opening their cameras, talking, but their wives, I know them that they are covered. So they were moving without the cover behind them, easily and freely, because they don't know that there's a camera. So I felt that we're really invading the privacy of our team, and that's not really right. So I told them, how about we turn off the cameras? We only put it when needed, and especially when we do the staff meeting. But our daily calls should be without cameras to respect your privacy, guys. And that's what we've done. Now, some operations had issues within the globe with mental health and missing going to the office and doing all that stuff. But I was lucky here because my team, 90% of them are under the age of 30. They're in their 20s, so they're full of energy. They can work anywhere, put them under the table or on the top of the table, they can work and they can be inspiring everyone. So I was lucky that I didn't have any issue at all. And I can tell you openly and clearly, we're one of the few operations that we did not really ask for any help from HR. And HR was always organizing events and activities for mental health, for sports activities and other issues, music. They joined. We did the movie reviews during the COVID. The guys, they came up with this idea. They're so creative. We didn't have an issue. And
So-
that was tough.
So I want to, because I will give the floor again to Rana to comment and for the next question, but because you did mention that in the context of the pandemic, it did not really affect you and your team. However, you already mentioned that you work round the clock. So how does balance work with you and your team?
Okay, that's a different
Irrespective.
story. Okay, that's a different story. Now, working 24/7, that's part of the game. You can say that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's working. No, it's not.
Is it on?
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. 24/7 comes, you always expect CNN working 24/7. We have shifts. The only difference that we've done during COVID is that we ask people to choose their shifts, and for those who are doing features, not breaking news or important news that needs to be done now, we ask them to also pick and choose whenever they would like to join and leave and come back. Because some of them, as you know, they're working from home. As a mother, when you are working in the office, you know that the kids are at school, they will come at so and so time. But if they have schooling, if they have needs, they have food, then you cannot really focus on both. So we gave this privacy to be respected, We gave them also the right to choose their time and shifts, so they can easily go to Slack in and then Slack out. So you know that you don't need to disturb them. So that was done, and that was done perfectly. And it also helped us. Some people, they wanted to work in the middle of the night, so that they chose the shift. But also, even if they tell you that they would like to do that, I started something without putting it on their calendar, just pick up the phone and call people, no Zoom, nothing at all, just to say, so the first time I called them, immediately, me being the editor-in-chief and their manager, they would say, oh, everything is okay with work. And I said, I'm not calling you for work. Put work on the side. I'm asking about you. How are you? How is your family? Everything is okay. What you've done, what's missing at home. So we asked personal. These things were not before COVID that much. We used to do activities together because we're all expats in the UAE. But now we started doing it more often, and now we are building on it, and we have it still after COVID.
Thank you. Actually, this is the perfect segue for the question that I want to ask you, Rana, because I'm very interested, and I'm sure we all are, to hear your perspective on what was just mentioned. But I would like to ask you the question in a different way. You were the first woman to become a partner and then a board member of Deloitte in the Middle East. So you were the first board member, and you championed
The last.
and you champion people and purpose while also living on a plane. So from the perspective of the corporate sector, this is something that I'd like to hear your opinion on the first question. But there is a global Deloitte survey that was done on 400 women across 9 countries. And it found that nearly 70% of women who experienced negative shifts in their routine as a result of the COVID pandemic believe their career progression will slow down. 1/3 of women said that their workloads had increased, and 46% repeated feeling the need to always be available off hours and to answer emails immediately. 48% of surveyed women experienced negative impact on their physical well-being from the need to be constantly available, and 45% were feeling overwhelmed, especially that the onus of family care has been seen to affect women more. So how do biases, first of all, your comment on the shift altogether, but how do biases affect our growth?
Thank you for sharing this set of data. And in my mind, while you were talking about that, I was thinking, would the men answer the same? Because some of these are because of COVID, and some of these because of the technology, the mobile phones we're carrying, we're expected to be on all the time. There is that invasion of privacy. People could send you emails at any time of the day and so on. Going to COVID, and I'll give you our perspective and my perspective on COVID. COVID actually was like a time machine. We were, as thought leaders producing research and so on as Deloitte, we were actually predicting there will be more work out of home. There will be more of a contingency workforce that will work for big corporations. You will not, the people who will work for you in 2030, we're going to be more than 30% in certain industries, not your employees. We didn't expect Uber to that level, but we were predicting a lot of that. So what happened, and for women, we were predicting also that men and women will be selling, like the gig economy, their services to the highest bidder at the time they want, at the pace they want, and so on. And we were looking at these trends and saying, these are positive trends in the future. Are we ready for the future of work in that sense? So what did COVID do? They brought it all forward, gave us a black swan. Black swan, by the way, is a term, and if you've read the book, from somebody in the Middle East, Nicholas Taleb, he's a Lebanese guy. And this was, had he known, this is the perfect black swan of something completely unexpected. Nobody was prepared. But then, in hindsight, now looking at it, companies and people are by far more resilient than we thought. And although the technology was troublesome and not available, now the technology is really pacing and taking. So moving on to that, let me give you a couple of thoughts on the gains and pains of COVID. The pains of COVID is we discovered women were continuing, despite all the advancement of careers of women and so on in the world, the primary caretakers of their children, their homes, their elderly parents, and just about their full life. We had been saying, oh, men stay at home more often now, take care of the kids. There is division of labor at home. COVID unveiled the fact that when you have kids at home, who will be teaching them and tutoring? It's going to be the mother. Who is going to be more the caretaker of elderly parents? And they were the mothers. And so mothers or women, whether they had children or not. So that unveiled this formula. And not only that, the children were constantly at home. The work continued to be at pace for them, only doing it remotely, but all that domestic and all that familiar responsibility fell on them. And absolutely, these were the surveys we found, and this is what happened. So that was a pain. I am a strong believer that work out of home, flexible time, hybrid work in the long term, when we get the formula right in the corporate work, is an advantage to women, because they can then, work-life balance, does it exist? No. But what they will be able to do, they will have work-life fit. If their kids are younger, they will be able to adapt their careers and their work with the right organizations. And even if they are in the gig economy, more to their conditions. So that's a take away from it. At present, mental well-being and all of that is impacting men and women more so. But that made organizations now change a lot of their policies, procedures, and what have you. So there are gains and there are pains, and I can say other examples in the Q&A. Now, on your question, does bias,
How does bias affect our growth?
So I'm going to give a bit of a division a la Rana. It's not any.
Yes, because we're not sure if it's biased, please.
Actually, it's a very good question. It's like work-life balance. Anybody could define it in a different way. Let me take an attempt, and maybe you want to add something. So the way I look, because I'm also a lobbyist, only in the Middle East for women rights and so on, but I'm also in the corporate world, I would say, let me divide it roughly into my baskets. There is structural bias, and then there is behavioral bias in my mind. Structural bias is in systems, laws, policies, procedures. These are not the behaviors of people. You just have it wrong. The laws in many of our countries in the Middle East are not equitable for women. For example, the policies in your firm are not, or in your organization, actually have bias against certain groups. And normally there are other women, it could be parents, it could be. So these are structural, and it's nobody's fault that if they apply them, that there results in impact on careers. And these, frankly, are the easy ones to correct, because you can diagnose them. You can say there is a bias in this policy. Let's make it not more equal, more equitable, because then I'm sure everybody is nodding their head, so you know the difference. It's like you have a kid who's 5 years old and a kid who's 15 years old. You can't treat them equally. You can treat them equitably because you have to adjust your size to ease. So people when they are in having seasons of their lives, the policies should be able to be flexible enough. So if you need to spend more time at home or doing things for your family, then doesn't impact your career as much. So that's the easy part. It's difficult, but at least the visible part. The next one is behavior of leaders, so recruitment, promotion, pay. These are things that are decisions and acts of people. Part of the bias there is conscious bias, and part of it is unconscious bias. Conscious bias, again, is visible. You may have the panel who tackles pay to be a diverse, inclusive panel, make sure the structural is there, and then you can have less bias. The behaviors and the unconscious bias is what we're focusing on now. So we're less focusing on training women. And I always say, whenever the UN organizations come, they start, whenever there's a gender program, they start training women, We need to train men. We need to train leaders, men and women, on unconscious bias, because that is what's impacting careers of men. So we're very much focusing on inclusive leadership training, on awareness, on accountability, on tone at the top. These behavioral things for the organization who got it more or less right in the structural part, and the outcomes are not what we like at government level and so on. We're tackling now the behavior of leaders. We're tackling the unconscious bias. So that's the impact as I see it in my own view.
Okay. I agree with 80%. No, 80, no, I totally agree, 80%. But I'm a fact person, I deal with facts. Meaning that I cannot say that it's everywhere or everybody is facing this issue. I have lots of experience, examples that I'm meeting people and I see people. Nowadays, the young generation is so good in trying to manage situation together. Like you can see that I know many examples from, people that I know who are working with me or working with others and so on. And I can, I'll take Jumana as an example. I didn't ask her about this, but, I'm sure that you and your husband are working together to support your two daughters. And I know this because I know you and I know your husband. So it's not always the case that men are not, the women are only taking the care of all of these issues. And it's not also
It's on average.
Yeah,
it's
but
not absolutely. And mind you, the men of today, I'm sorry to interrupt you, the men of today are not to be blamed, for what the situation here. They've inherited this as we have. So my comments is on average, this is the situation, but there are definitely very good examples.
now
But
with you
the
100%.
journey is at a snail pace.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
I-
It's so slow.
Okay, and now I heard it loud enough. Average, I'm with you. Okay,
Yes.
so we're on good page. But I do believe that now I'm so optimistic. Now the young generation are so good in understanding things together, sharing the burden together, taking care of each other. I'm so optimistic. From literally, I see this every day, and I feel, my God, we are really in a better place now, or we are getting there. And, I have to give you an example that I was shocked. Everybody, with all respect to anybody, if he or she from Japan, when I visited Japan and I asked about the workforce and how they're treating people, they said to me, if two people applied for the same job, they have the same qualification, they will give 25% extra for a man against the woman. So that's Japan. But now, thanks to the openness, thanks to the internet, thanks to the NGOs and other organizations, and also people who are now really willing to invest, to train and offer workshops to empower women and empower men as well to understand women, because it's very important. And I repeat, I always say that it takes two to tango. You can empower women until she reaches the moon, but if the man is not empowered properly to understand why we're empowering women, then we are literally singing under the shower.
You stole my thunder, Caroline, because that was my next question to you.
See,
So-
I know you very well.
And I think we have chosen our panel in such a way that we wanted to make sure that it remained live because again, a room of preaching to the converted is definitely not a fun discussion, but when we have these healthy debates and we bring out all of the thoughts and ideas that are in everyone's minds, and I hope this means that we're not only hitting the nail on the head, but it's also a more fun conversation. So Caroline, speaking of fun conversations, we once had an interesting conversation about boundary setting. And I'd like your opinion about how can women, and this is again to what you were saying, it's not necessarily just women, but this is part of the equation, and how can women create an enabling environment in their personal lives to support work-life balance?
Okay, so I always say that if you don't know about your rights, then you cannot get your rights. That's ABC. And I was just talking about this yesterday. I arrived today at 8 o'clock in the morning from Jordan. I was also speaking almost the same about media and women. It's, you know, many women, they don't get their rights because they don't know that it's their rights. Show me how many people know their rights from their constitution in the Arab world. How many people they read the contracts when they sign it. All of these things is, so it's not the fault of the organization or the country if you don't know your rights. So if you know your rights, then you will fight for it and you will ask for it. So it's important because, as you said, it's not the problem of the laws, it's the implementation sometimes or lack of knowledge of the person who is asking for practicing the rights. So this is first thing that we need to talk about it. Now, with regards to your question about the boundaries, you know, I don't think that, you know, there should be any boundaries at all. You know, you should always remember that you're not asking for a gift or like something that giving you something from their own pocket or something. No, it is your right that you're asking for. So it's the same thing as well when men are not giving the rights to women to practice their rights and within the house or within dealing with kids or dealing education or something like that. So it's the knowledge of how much men and women are aware of their rights based on the constitution or the contracts that you're signing or even the regulations being implemented within the company that you're working for. So it all depends on your knowledge and your willingness to learn more and to know more. And you know, the more you empower both sides, the better society we will have. What's the use of having really a strong, you know, I'm leading now CNN operation in the Gulf, and if my husband is not really empowering me or supporting or appreciating, if you like, I don't think that, you know, I can be where I am. It started with a man in my life, which was my grandfather, and my father supported me and taught me that first, education is a must for me, and second, that there's nothing called impossible. I learned these two things, and I'm growing accordingly, and this is where I am. That's why I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you. So it all starts, that's why I always believe that, you know, man in the life of each one of us is always important, not because you men are sitting here, and you're the minority, by the way, but still, here, I mean, sitting here, but still, but you know, it's really important, you know, that and for you to come here as well, it's a sign that you're respecting, and I hope that you are implementing at home as well. So that this is, you know, I'll stop here because
Yeah.
The other side.
Yeah, and of
I
course,
agree with 60% of what you said.
we are.
No, but you're the number woman, you know. For me, I'm a fact checker. I'm a fact.
Yeah, so
Get the 60.
actually, I want to pick up on both and just circle back to what you mentioned about work-life fit. So I do want to ask you about the enabling environment, but I will color it as well because it's no secret, and maybe some of you don't know, but it's no secret for people who know us that Rana is a mentor of mine. And you once prescribed a list of practical hacks for priority setting. And in the spirit of sharing wisdom and talking about enabling environment and work-life fit, how can we juggle personal and work priorities, and what life hacks can help?
So I don't claim this is wisdom at all. I claim this is experience, and having observed many women, and especially when I became more accountable for our inclusion agenda and so on. So it became more of a focus for me. Firstly, in life, we're all dealt a set of cards. How do you say? Yeah,
Yeah.
a set of cards. A few cards you control. There are many cards we don't control. The most important card, and this is for Caroline here, is the choice. The most important career decision you make is the choice of your partner in life. Let me repeat. The most important career decision, not life decision, career decision you make is who's going to be your partner in life. Because I cannot make a decision for a partner in life, then work on changing him the rest of my life. That won't work. So make an early decision. Know what is it you want in your life, what's your ambition in life, and then accordingly match your life with a partner who will be able to have the same values that you have, the same beliefs that you have, even at the expense of not having a partner in life. I'm sorry, just having a network and a circle of friends. Because to your point, I could block my husband's career and he could block my career. It could go to that extent. Somebody who's not happy in the relationship there could be many repercussions. On what are my tips, if you like, to and we have so many experienced people here, I'm sure they'll add to them. There is no one size fits all. Our problem, and when we hear panels like this, and there is a successful person, woman, man, president, politician, and they say, my father, and I would say my ex, they think, oh, it worked for them, it will work for me. Nonsense. It will not work for you. You have your own life, you have your own set of things, but there are some generalization that we can take, and one of them is choosing the right partner. The other is deciding and prioritizing what is it you want in life. What is it I want? Don't plan 20 years from now. If many of you here are experienced people, you can only plan 5 years and so on. And then with that prioritization, adjust your life. One general tip I have is you don't have to be a super mom, a super wife, a super partner, and a super worker at home. You cannot be super in everything. And I'm talking to the women who are possibly the generation who's coming up, and maybe you want to tell them the same. Something will have to be balanced. A very simple example. My daughter used to come home and say, oh, the mother of this friend of mine got a cake like this on the cake sale. I would go around the corner, get cupcakes and say, oh, here are the cupcakes. While that mother spent 3 hours cooking, but I had my priorities. I was doing something else. Definitely cake that my daughter takes to school is not a competition between me and a mother who doesn't work. And I used to live in Saudi Arabia. We'd live in compounds and, you know, everybody compares how good they are at cooking. Not a competition I want to make. It's a silly example, ladies and gentlemen, but this is what I mean by having my own formula. And the way I look at work-life fit is at the time my daughter was young, I have one daughter, I had to spend more time on that. Then when she became independent, went to university, I could spend longer time at work. And it's not only time, different effort. So not only does my formula has to fit me, I have to make it a dynamic formula that goes up and down with the seasons of my life. My father is ill now. He's had 2 operations in the summer, and in Beirut. I had to cancel many trips. I had to work around. I have some colleagues in here. They know how much I changed my formula because of my father, because I had to be near him. And these are
Not by force.
Yeah.
absolutely by choice. But then I elected to work in an organization that gives me this choice. And because I'm responsible, I'm electing to work with teams and colleagues to change the formulas in the organization and do that. So when should people change roles? If you are in an organization that doesn't do this, that is not a learning organization, that is not listening, that is not engaging with the people, you know, try, then leave. Leave, go somewhere where there is that that ability to develop formulas. This is what Gen Z, this is what the millennial generation, this is what they want.
Mhm.
That's how we're gonna retain them or not retain them. It's not pay. We always say people leave for money. Not true.
Yeah.
If our value proposition to them does not now, post-COVID, include hybrid works, includes flexibility, includes well-being. Now in the organization, we've never had to be responsible for the mental well-being of our people. Now I have to deal with cases, and many of us, of somebody who is snowed under and it's impacting their family life and so. So evolvement of all these things are, I think, the types of focus areas we have.
Actually, this is the perfect segue because you are going to answer it the same way, if I may.
It has to be my choice if I want to answer. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I meant you may,
Can they pay you
if you would
today?
like to say that. No, only because it is the perfect segue. Sorry, you want to take this mic?
I should be calling the DIFC. You have a magic touch here.
No, it was actually the perfect segue because I'm going to ask you about the same topic.
Can I just interrupt before you
Of
ask me the same
course.
topic? I fully agree. Now we reached 100%, okay, which is great. I really, no, seriously, I'll give you just a quick example about, you know, the ethics of the organization that you're working for. Sometimes I have to be very frank. We are international global company, but we are not a super duper rich company that would give loads of money for stuff. Okay. And you know what I'm talking about. So if somebody is working for me and for CNN and together with me, and they get another offer from somewhere else, they come and ask me, what do I think? On a friendly basis, not as their manager. So often what I do is I take them out and we have coffee together and we discuss things together on a personal level. And the advice I always ask them, listen, guys, first of all, think if this is going to help you to grow, learn something better. And if you feel that you are respected, very important to be respected. That fits, if you click these boxes, then you are going to the right place. And also compare it with the place where you are now.
Mhm.
So the family atmosphere also is vital. We're all expats. We come and work here and we spend hours working and not spending time with our families sometimes. So I always ask them, make sure that, you're going to an environment that you feel that you're also joining another family there. Now the money, most of them, they will come and say, no, I would rather stay. And I'm so happy to say, and very proud, and this is going to be all over the place. I know that 160 people are also watching different places. But I wanted to tell you guys, I'm so blessed and so happy that most of the team, sometimes they might see the figure attractive to them and they leave, they come back to us, or they come and tell us that we really miss the family atmosphere and we really feel that this is not, we went to a different reason. But as you said, it's are very important.
Mhm.
If I feel that I'm taking $1 billion and I'm not respected, I'm not treated in a respectable way, I'm not taking my rights properly, then you really need to think and talk to yourself first, then you talk to somebody else, because it's a personal choice. So if you accept, and my advice to you as well, all of you, if you accept the first time something like this to be done, it will be the beginning. It's not the one and the end of it. So it will continue like this, and that will accumulate. So you can decide whether you would like to grow in a proper environment, or you would like to grow on a place that pays the check and that's it, and not checking all the other boxes. I'll stop here. Question.
No, if I would like to just summarize the takeaways and segue into something that was touched upon and is the next question. But perhaps just to follow up on what you both said, there is now a term that is called employer of choice. So we often think that we need to be chosen for a job and then we have to put up our best to be chosen, be it in relationships or in work environments. But actually what this term tells us is we also have a right to choose our employers. We choose the kind of terms, the kind of equity environment. So there is I think what you both said is about knowledge and choice, regardless of the context or the situation, that once we know what we're getting into, be it in our personal life or our work life, and know that we have the ability to make choices, then we hence create that enabling environment that matches our values and our choices.
But we're still talking about best case scenarios. There are some people who are sometimes forced to leave the best environment because they need extra money. Because that's their choices, that's their choice. So but if somebody is asking that, what are the criteria for me to choose the best organization I go to or to build my career and so on, that's what I mentioned personally from my experience. So you might also talk to more people and they will give you more tips or disagree with me or agree with me.
Yeah.
But some people, in reality, there are some people who are leaving their home country, their comfort zone. They go to another country to work with another organization for a different reason.
And on that note, because I also want to ask you another question, perhaps give the floor to the room so that we can take as many questions before we have a closing question. You mentioned a lot about millennials and the future of work and what people are looking for, be it pay or be it environment. So I'm just going to bring it to some of the things I picked up from LinkedIn Talent Solutions. There is some statistics that say that 77% of the up and coming workforce, which is millennials and Gen Z, are searching for jobs that allow them a stronger focus on work-life balance. And job postings that offer flexibility, quote unquote, have an average of 35% more engagement. And the global LinkedIn research shows that work-life balance has overtaken compensation as the #1 workplace expectation, and that's at 63%. So how do you see the future of work, Rana? Especially, how do you see it in the corporate world?
Maybe I see the future of work to be. I see the future of work to be more human than ever. So we've passed through a number of industrial revolutions. In earlier industrial revolutions, there were the systems, the processes, the machines, the what have you. As we have moved and began to talk about knowledge workers, and because so I see that there will be a lot of focus on the people, less so on all these others. The others will be enablers. It will have to be a balance of a number of factors. The nature of work that will evolve as we go along, the people, the society, and the digital landscape. All these are the 4 balancing acts I see in the future of talent. I'll continue on this, but there is a comment, Caroline or Caroline? Caro. But okay, but there was so you mentioned something about choosing to leave. Of course, people leave organizations for the right reasons. We call them our alumni. We keep good relations with them, and it could be for many factors. But for women, there is one thing that keeps on recurring. They sometimes make short-term decisions that impact their careers in the long term. So they say, I will stay at home for a number of years to raise my 2 young kids, for example, and we're coming back to mothers and mothers, but there are things for women, whether they are mothers or don't have children. And what happens there is that you can't leave the workforce for a long time in the future talent of work. And if the future of work, if you do, the catch up becomes extremely difficult. Now, many companies, including one of my colleagues here and others, are saying, let's take returning mothers and have special programs for them. Let's take people who went on sabbatical to raise their kids and do programs. But not all organizations are willing to invest in such programs. So what is that woman doing? Making a short-term decision that will impact the career in a long way. You can do it slightly differently, and each formula is by itself. Also, many women say, this is a demanding job in this sector. I'll go to a less demanding job. And this is why we see a lot of pink collar, not blue collar, pink collar professions. And these are the professions that are normally controllable. For example, education, because when their kids in the summer are on holiday, they can take the summer leave and so on. So you find a predominant workforce that is female oriented. So there are those women jobs and those men jobs. What does that mean? Normally the top positions in an organization do not come through a pink collar job, frankly. And so again, these are the watch out areas. I speak a lot to audiences about something I call CLBs to CBBs, career limiting behaviors to career boosting behaviors. And sometimes my audience is women, and there will be a few men. And I've had men come to me and say, the behaviors you're talking about, so I'm not saying women are less skilled. I'm saying on average, they display career limiting behaviors that impact their careers more than men. Give you a quick example. I have an assignment. I call one of my leaders as a man, and I say, I've chosen you for this project. Automatically, the man will say, Rana, you haven't made a mistake. You will not be disappointed. You will see that you've made the right choice. Now, I'm stereotyping here a little bit, but the gist of it is like this. He goes out of the room. I'm relieved I chose him. He's now enthusiastic, and so on average. On average comes a woman, and she said, but you do know I have never done this before. Of course, I know you work for me. But can I come to you for help if I need help? Of course you can. The man took it for granted. And so this is one of the typical behaviors that display less confidence. I'm not saying women are less confident than men. I'm saying they display less confidence. And the three most important features that make people reach the top, according to a study of a university like yours, I will not mention because we're with you today. So, so just out of respect, but one in the US, Ivy League, whatever. And so they said the three most criteria that make men reach the top are assertiveness, confidence, and I forgot the third: assertiveness, confidence, and there is another one, I think. Anyway, let me pass. Women on average display less these behaviors. So what does that mean? Do we have to be assertive, aggressiveness? Do we have to be aggressive? Do we have to be all of this? No, we should flex our style. So if there's a situation in my work which requires me to be assertive, I will. But I also have better, on average, affinity to get consensus in the room. So I select when I have more consensus, more connection with people, allowing people to speak more, and so on, more on average than men. So flexing that style is a good formula. Mm-hmm. But realize that if we only do, quote unquote, the female types of behaviors that are in the literature, the chances are we'll have it more difficult to reach the top. And these are things we control now. There are obviously the biases, the unconscious biases, the not having a network, the sitting in the corner and being very, if people don't see what I'm doing, I'm not gonna tell them. We do this more than men. Men are loud about what they're doing on average, and justifiably so. I mean, if you've done something right, people should know about it. I can speak a lot about these things, very passionate about them, but these are the things that help us get to the top more than others, among other things.
Well, I'm glad that with the example of both you and Caroline, Caroline is an Arabic Caroline because it's an international audience. There is definitely no shortage of assertiveness or confidence or success in making it. And you had already spoken how you foresaw the future of work because of the nature of the organization that you work in. And given the nuggets that Rana just shared and what you already shared earlier about already having been prepared and already working like this before, is there anything that you have that you see differently about the future of work before we open the floor to questions?
Well, I'll give you a quick brief about the situation that we went through for the last 2 years. At the beginning, I was every staff meeting every month. I have a call with my team. And the first question is, when are we going back to the office? Everybody was asking they want to go back to the office. And then gradually things started, like this question started to disappear. Now, when personally, I was willing to go to the office anytime, and I was going most of the time to the office. But then gradually, when we started to tell them, how about guys, to consider to come once a week, or, just like put it on your calendar if you'd like to come every now and then, I started to hear people saying, but do we really need to go back once a week, or maybe we can go once a month? So it started to to differentiate between them. Now, for example, within CNN, we're saying, would like you to come to the office 3 times a week if you can. So first it was it was sent to us that 3 times a week, and then I called HR and I said, what do you mean by 3 times a week? Is that like final? They said it's a case by case, and also every manager should take. So personally, I told the team, if you can, that's if you can, it's from me, it's not from the HR. I told them, if you can, guys, it's not also a Bible that you have to, it's a must have, no. If you would like, if you have any case, it's fine. If you cannot come, it's fine. But the idea is for you to come over when people are in the office. So what's the use of if you come on a weekend, for example, only having 2-3 people only. So it's the, when you come to the office, when I come to the office and I see my team there, I'm literally full of energy and joy. I love seeing my team and work with them. But when you come to the office and there's nobody there, it's different. It's, I'm not an emotional person as sometimes people call me. But when I came the first time and I saw more than 5 in the office after COVID, I was about to have tears in my eyes because it was so emotional to see each other face to face, not through. Now, some of us, we were able to have coffee every now and then, but some chose to go back home and work from their own countries. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I have one, sorry, yeah.
Just comment on this because I'm going to give a different perspective. We have thousands of people here in the Middle East. The way we've done what we call hybrid works, and this is a dynamic thing, we keep on evolving it, is we started with choice. Employees have choice, but it's not ultimate choice. So you cannot decide not to come at all, or you can decide to come to work in the office is open, but it's not completely, because we're a commercial enterprise. We have clients who want us to work and see us. And if everybody stays at home, then when we hire people, the young people, they're not getting the proper mentoring. They have to live the culture, and living the culture is not going to be through Zoom and Teams and what have you. So there has to be that touch points, and we call them moments that matter. I'll give you examples of moments that matter that people have to be in the office. If I have a poorly performing person who needs counseling, not enough to sit at home and talk virtually and never meet each other. So in that case, I have to make sure there are arrangements. When we're starting a project, because we're consultants, we start a project, finish a project. When you're starting a project, gather the team, agree on what is the mode of work for that team, what does the client expect, and so on. So moments that matter is the start of the projects, are the milestones, are the times the client wants us, Now, we didn't want it to be the style of the leaders. Some leaders want to be in the office every day. We watched out for these. If it's for no reason, then we are not walking the talk in terms of hybrid work. Nor did we want anybody to say my style of work, so my team doesn't come to the office a lot. So we began to put ranges, but we didn't put it at the policy of the organization level. We left it to teams by teams, businesses by business, unit by unit, but we gave them guidelines. We had these very fancy slides because we're consultants. We're very good at colorful slides. So very fancy slide, the type of engagement in Riyadh, in Neom, this is what needs to happen, blah, blah, blah. The type of kaza, and then we empowered leaders. And so hybrid works based on the empowerment of leaders is taking a form of itself for the future of work. That has never been there, but people now feel by far more in control. Now, our people are mentally fatigued because they have to travel a lot. And so I'm not painting a rosy picture at all. We have our problems. There are things we're still working on. But in terms of hybrid works, I think we are evolving it to be a formula that is choice for Gen Z and the millennial, yet client focused, yet firm focused. These three angles of the triangle working properly together.